I just have a desire to be great. You know, that's one of the main things. The fact that there's another man on the other side of the ring that wants to hurt me.
I told you, all of my critics, I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
He can bring the pressure. He can box. I'm a true champion. I'm willing to go to his turf. I'm a step on him. I'm a crush him. Y'all can mark my word to this. I'm a crush him. He's a C-plus fighter. I'm an A-plus fighter because I'm a dominate. This guy is flat-footed, swing wild. I'm not worried about who his trainer is because the trainer can't get in there and fight for him. I'm ready mentally, physically, because I'm a team like he's a C-plus fighter. I'm a dominate. I'm a dog this fighter.
I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynch with the conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairport. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat your children.
Listen, man, can you? Listen, your concentration is leaving a little bit. Pick it up. Pick it up. Fire's up. Are you ready for the fire? Those were firemen. We are firemen. The heat doesn't bother us. We live in the heat. We train in the heat. It tells us that we're ready. We're at home. We're where we're supposed to be. Flames don't intimidate us. What do? We control
What's going on? This is episode 33 of the Standing 8 podcast. And this is where we talk nothing but boxing, everything about boxing. And today we're going to be talking a lot about what we just saw this past weekend between Canelo versus Danny Jacobs and many other things that have been occurring and will occur. And as usual, I have the usual suspects, Tommy, Aaron, Courtney, D-Rock, and Tommy, all online right now. Talk a lot of shit about Canelo and Danny Jacobs. So, gentlemen, let's get it on. How's everyone doing?
I don't even play video games because I don't like losing. Let's do this. Brooklyn!
So D-Rock, I was going to ask you that question. Are you going to stand up for Brooklyn after
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
subpar performance?
No, I mean, we'll get into it as soon as you guys want. I do want to commend both fighters on a good fight. I don't want to say it was too entertaining when it's my turn, and when we want to get into the breakdown and analysis, I'll go in a little more in depth into how I felt the fight played out. But not disappointed. With the outcome per se, I didn't agree with it, but whatever. It is what it is.
Wait. What didn't you agree with?
I had a different scorecard. I definitely had a different scorecard. No, I absolutely did. I posted on a few outlets what my exact scorecards were. I
might have been drunk. Go ahead. What was your scorecard?
Let's talk about it. I actually had a 7-5 for Jacobs, where I'm very consistent in the way I score fights. And yes, Canelo, he got the nod, and I'm not arguing with it because you do have to do enough to take the belts away from the champ. I do think Danny Jacobs won more rounds than Canelo Alvarez, absolutely. Where I think the fight was lost on what would have been a draw, because you had two judges have the fight 7-5 for Canelo Alvarez, was the last round. And you could say that really separated the fight. Other than that, it would have been a majority draw, and we have to agree with that. I have seen some ridiculousness on posts saying they saw fights 9-3. I didn't see the same fight. I saw Canelo Alvarez box very well, but I saw Danny Jacobs win the spurts, press the fight a little more. Rozier had no secondary game plan, or didn't really give Danny Jacobs good advice when he wasn't faring well fighting as a southpaw. He didn't just tell him to stop. If I'm in his corner, I tell him, look, son, you're not doing well as a southpaw. Go back to the way you're fighting. You're landing more. You're pressing the fight. You're making him more uncomfortable. aside from the horrible commentary with Brian Kenny and Sergio Mora, the one point that they did make, and I have to agree, and I'm pretty sure everyone else will agree with, is that what Canelo Alvarez does, whether it's landing a punch or a defensive tactics, is more aesthetically pleasing and easier to score to a casual eye rather than someone who's looking for a whole conglomerate of things happening in the ring, which is why I think Danny Jacobs pulled out that W.
So I gotta wholeheartedly disagree with you. And I don't have it 9-3. I did have it 8-4. I can see the argument for 7-5 in favor of Canelo. I thought that Danny Jacobs did well on the 1/3 of the fight, so the last couple of rounds. But at that point, I thought it was already too late. I saw Danny Jacobs throw punches really with no purpose. He looked awful when he was in the southpaw stance, and when he did throw, there's actually a highlight where he throws like 4 or 5 punches. He's just touching Canelo's glove, and then Canelo comes back and counters with a crisp left hook. You know, so I think throughout the fight, Canelo was just the flashier boxer when it came to the defense. I mean, his head movement in that fight was tremendous. There was one round where I think he dodged and weaved about 7 or 8 consecutive punches. And that happened throughout the first half or first 8 rounds. He was just much more crisp in his punches. Danny Jacobs just wasn't as active in the first 2/3 of that fight as I thought he would be, especially coming in at 3.5 pounds or 3.6 pounds heavier than the limit, which I want to talk about that later. And also maybe, this might have been DJ's last fight as a middleweight. I think he might be moving up, from my understanding, to super middleweight. Hints were thrown already by Eddie Hearn in an interview a couple of days ago. But I didn't see a lot of pushback from any type of fans, especially DJ fans online on any site, thinking that DJ had won that fight. I think the consensus was pretty much the same throughout most boxing forums. I expected more from Danny. I really thought he was going to come in the way he came in the Triple G fight. But again, styles make fights. And I actually it was a good technical fight, but it was somewhat boring in a sense. I know a lot of people are criticizing Triple G for saying, he called it a sparring match. He's a hater. It kind of was. If you really look at it, it kind of was a sparring match. It felt like it. Canelo really didn't break a sweat. If you looked at him at the post-fight interview, he left there unmarked, literally unmarked. Didn't look like he broke a sweat. It wasn't, nothing Danny did bothered Canelo. He did hit him. He had that shot, I forget what round, where he snaps his neck back. But Canelo, let me tell you something. His chin is just as good, not better, but just as good as Triple G's. I really wholeheartedly feel that way.
Mike, and before we move on to the other guys, and I'll keep it short, the same way you say nothing Danny did affected Canelo, the same could be said that nothing Canelo did affected Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs wasn't at all rattled by anything Canelo was bringing. I mean, we're talking about a 6-second highlight where he was bending at the waist and dodging punches. You said that he wasn't active enough in the first few rounds. That's with all due respect, that's highly inaccurate, because he was throwing a lot more punches and bringing the pressure, at least attempting to bring the pressure in the first half of the fight. And I'll step aside for the other guys to chime in.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what Courtney has to say, because I know he's as objective as they come, and he is a Danny Jacobs fan. So we're going to talk to him and see what he thought about the scorecard and who he thought fought well and who he thought really won. Mr. Tanner.
Keep it at 100. I had it 9-3. I thought that was a totally dominant performance by Canelo on the night. And the scary thing is, I think it was a totally dominant performance by Canelo when Canelo really didn't have his best stuff on the night. I think it was. I think with Danny Jacobs, it was a completely mediocre performance. And I think with Canelo, it was kind of pedestrian. I think I don't know if it was the motivation that was off. I don't know if his knee was bothering him. I don't know if there was some distractions within camp or whatever. But like in my view of Canelo, he seemed like he wasn't all the way there. He was kind of disconnected. Danny Jacobs, he just seemed like he was kind of above board. Danny, it kind of seemed like he came in and the moment was too big for him. And that's unusual because he's had Vegas fights before. He's headlined. He's had those big moments, those big fights. But he fought completely like the moment was too big for him. And as far as the strategy they employed in that fight, tactically it was bogus. Rozier, he's a lot better. I've come to expect a lot better for as far as him game planning and prepping his fighters than what Danny showed in that fight.
Courtney, I got a question for you. Were you surprised that he didn't go back to Danny Jacobs and say, "Hey, stop fighting southpaw"? Because when you're fighting southpaw, your punches have no follow through, and you're not looking good in a southpaw stance. Did you feel like that's something you should have brought to his attention immediately? Were you surprised that it wasn't?
I think as far as that game plan, they should have abandoned that in like the first or second round. Or maybe after but early on in the fight, I think that was apparent that wasn't going to be the business. Like, listen, like I said, I had it 9-3. I think Danny fought well or impressively in some very brief spots, but the strategy was all off from going to that southpaw stance as if that was going to throw Canelo off, and to go. It seemed like he was kind of like trying to steal rounds on Canelo. And I think the majority of people who did have it closer than I had it, who had it 8-4, 7-5, or even some who were saying it was a draw, I think they gave Danny credit for effective work, like in the last 30 seconds of each round that he was employing. I mean, if that's how you score fights, then hey, I mean that's the subjectivity within scoring and boxing. But I mean, from my perspective, from what I saw, me being a person who tries to see the fight as the judges see it, going for effective punching, defense, and ring generalship, I could, using those criteria, I could only reasonably give Danny Jacobs 3 rounds in that fight. So, I mean, and I know we're going to delve into it a little bit later in the broadcast, but I mean, as far as Danny Jacobs having prospects for going to 168 from this point on, I think that's a very I don't think we're going to see greatness from Danny Jacobs at 168. That's what I'm going to say on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And here's the one thing I do agree with you. Besides Danny Jacobs going to super middleweight, not going to look the same as he has. Just a different animal when you carry that, when you carry up in weight. And also, I mean, you're talking about more power, and he's been suspect on occasions with his chin. With Sergio Mora in that first round, with Parag, and with Triple G. But not taking anything away from Jacobs. But what you said about the effectiveness of the punches and just ring generalship, I think is dead on. It was correct, and I think that's why most people did have that fight 9-3 or 8-4. So I have to agree with you, dear. So Aaron, I know you're on. I want to ask you one thing. Does this put Canelo as number 1 in the pound-for-pound rankings right now? If you had to rank him, where do you put him? Do you put him at number 1?
I believe this win does put him number 1 in my pound-for-pound rankings, given he's been going up in weight classes throughout the latter half of his career, so and the number of champions he's beaten in that
Don't
activity.
You say he beat don't you say he beat Triple G?
I mean, for the sake of record, I have to take that into account. He allegedly beat Triple G twice. So despite what I feel, how I felt about the first match, I still have to count that for the record as beating him the first time. As a tie. But he he did somewhat convincingly beat him the second time around. So having said that, and his successes post Triple G, especially with this win over Jacobs, I think it brings into a valid conversation of him being number one in the pound for pound rankings. I believe so.
My man Tommy, I know you're on, and I know you're eager to talk. Do you think that this victory over DJ, which I also agree with Courtney as far as, it seemed like Canelo was a little bit off, but also impressive at the fact that he could be off and still pretty much almost dominate a fight. But do you think that this fight merits him to be a number one over Bud Crawford and Lomachenko?
Man, oh man, I've been going back and forth with this all week. Yeah, I think that's where I'm leaning towards. As Aaron said, I mean, you got to give a man his credit, man. He's seeming like, just like you said. I mean, he can come in almost flat against somebody like Danny Jacobs and look that good still. I think that there will be enough argument, over resume, over the competition, pretty much anything that you can name that is not amateur careers, as some people might throw in there and say. I feel like he's the man and he's earned it. So I think that this may put him finally at number one in a lot of people's eyes, and there'll still be enough people that will still have Lomachenko. I'm still seemingly a little bit on the fence about having Bud there, but I think that Canelo's times now is to that number one spot. He's the pay-per-view and big matchmaking boxer in the game right now, and he's still doing what he's doing, man. He continues to get better, and even when he looks not at his best, he still looks better than most. So I think that he's there.
So
Courtney's going to come after you for not putting Bud.
Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, the black sheep.
Bud Crawford has been the consensus number one pound for pound fighter, not only in our group but across many boards for close to 2 years now. Wins a fight against a former champion without really breaking sweat, made him quit. I was in the building. Amir Khan did absolutely nothing. And yes, we can argue level of opponent at the time or the fact that he didn't have a title at the time. But Canelo Alvarez just went 12 rounds, and although it is my opinion, it was an arguable decision, and that catapults him above Terrence Crawford.
Well, that's because you see it as an arguable decision. I mean, I can understand that. I can understand that fact. But, I mean, where I'm coming from and where I feel that a lot of other people are going to be coming from is that it wasn't as close as you feel, where Jacobs actually won. There's going to be more people that agree with what the actual decision was, is that Canelo won. And with that being said, it's almost kind of like how Aaron said, despite what we feel, regardless of that, he got the dub. He got the win, and
facts.
The facts till this day he got the win. So regardless of all of that, I mean, unless you giving out unofficial dubs or something, I mean, if that's the way you're gonna do it, fine. But I think that the consensus overall will be that more people will side with the fact that he actually got the win and give him credit for that.
I'm gonna shoot over, and I'm gonna shoot over to Courtney really quick. And before Courtney, I give you the mic. I just want to say this. I put Canelo also as number one, and I had Lomachenko or Bud, either or could have been at number one for me. But I do have to say that Canelo's resume up to this date, Trout, Lara, Triple G twice, Danny Jacobs. I mean, we can't deny that the resume is impressive. And it's not because he beat DJ. It is because he beat, even though I disagree with the first decision, I believe that we could argue that he definitely beat Triple G the second time around, and now he beat Danny Jacobs, who's no slouch, right? A top-notch middleweight. So, Courtney, go ahead. You got the mic.
Yeah, I just wanted to redirect real quick on that. Personally, I've got after seeing the Jacobs and Canelo fight and basically we've had our top the most people's top three have been in action in close proximity, with Lomachenko getting a win against Krolla. We got Bud getting a win against Khan, and we've got Canelo unifying a title against Danny Jacobs. When you look at the top three, and you look at it in comparison, you got to go with strength of schedule, as they say in college football, and that's going to go to Canelo. So in my personal opinion, that put Canelo, in terms of the comparison with all three of them, that put him basically, I wouldn't say head and shoulders, but that nosed him ahead of the pack with all three. So I mean, but with Canelo's resume and the level of accomplishment, it's very. I'm not going to say it's very hard not to give it to him, but it's very hard to make the argument against him at this point.
I have to agree with you, D-Rock. I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds to answer back, because I know that you're being the black sheep. You always have to be the black sheep, right? So the black sheep of the group.
Well, here's the thing. Bud hasn't done anything to lose his position. I agree with the opinion on strength of schedule, but we see what's happening with Bud Crawford and the promotional entities on that side, and the biggest fights for him to make are not being made. So let's measure these rankings with the same ruler. Bud has not done anything to lose his position. Neither has Lomachenko. Loma obviously was not able to defend his titles with Richard Comey because of an injury. Kohler was next in line, and now Luke Campbell, his other mandatory, is next in line. So if he's in there and he's beating these guys as Bud Crawford did, there's no way I can put Canelo above these two when they have done nothing to diminish their rankings.
Well, here's my rebuttal to that. I mean, again, most of you know my feelings on the Canelo Triple G fights, but he went up to middleweight in the second time, beat the boogeyman of that division, and brought it to him, right? Even though I still think that fight was a draw, but he did bring it to Triple G, Mexican style, however you want to call it. And then he went and he beats, whether you agree or not, I think the consensus is that he beats Danny Jacobs fairly easily on a night that he seemed off. He still beat him fairly easy. And Danny Jacobs, where's he ranked at right now in the middleweight before that fight? What was he ranked?
Who, me?
The DJ, yeah. What was DJ ranked at in the middleweight division?
I would still have to put him behind Canelo, Triple G, Andrade.
Yeah. But if you had to rank him, you would say that he's ranked above.
He's in the top five. He's in the top five.
We could argue he's in the top three.
I'd put him up. No, I mean I'd put him above Charlo, probably slightly behind Billy Joe Saunders.
Whatever. I mean, the two guys that the first against Triple G different, but he went and fought him. He fought the best in his first middleweight. Not first middleweight fight, because he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. But on his second middleweight fight, he goes and beats Triple G in the second time, and then he goes and fights DJ, and he beats him. I mean, that has to hold a lot of weight as far as resume. Strength of schedule is exactly what I would say.
It's difficult because rankings or pound-for-pound rankings are objective, or they should be as objective as possible. I want to believe that the second fight should have been a draw, and the first fight was clearly a Triple G win. But as Aaron mentioned, we got to go by what the official wins and losses go. I still can't rank him above Lomachenko or Bud because of what I stated earlier. These other two fighters have not done anything to disprove their prior placement.
All right.
So let me ask you a question on that, D-Rock. So before Lomachenko got where he was, what did Canelo do exactly to lose his position to Lomachenko?
I don't think I never had him. I never had him above Lomachenko to begin with.
So when Lomachenko debuted, you didn't control him.
I mean, we're talking within the past 2.5 years. Before Canelo Alvarez was a middleweight champion, he had arguable victories. He had lost to Floyd Mayweather. Lomachenko had already had his titles, but had already unified at 140 pounds. I had Triple G ranked above him. I had Rung Visai ranked above him. I mean, we're talking about what's going forward from now. That's obviously changed with the Rung Visai loss, the Triple G decisions. I just cannot put him above Lomachenko and Bud at this current moment.
But here's my question to you. But did any of those fighters have their own weight class?
Canelo weight?
No.
I think there's a stark conundrum when we talk about the top three, because it kind of puts people or kind of puts fans in three different camps. I think the first one being I would say it's the mainstream camp, which is where a lot of the published and a lot of the boxing journalists have Lomachenko as number one. And I think if you're going off of, I think those people are going off the pure the skill set, the amateur pedigree, even though I think that shouldn't factor into it at all. And just the historic accomplishment of him winning a title in his third professional fight, being the quickest person to win a title in 2 divisions, being the quickest person to win a title in 3 divisions, being the fastest to unify. And then his historic fight, or his historic win over Rigondeaux, being the first time two-time Olympic gold medalists matched up together. So I think if you're on those things, you're gonna have Lomachenko at number one. Then there's the second camp, who they widely regard Bud as being the number one pound for pound guy. And I think if you're looking at sheer accomplishment, I think if you're looking at sheer dominance within the realm of going into divisions and just annihilating them and cleaning them out and just basically obliterating everybody that's put in front of you, you're going to go with Bud. And I think that's most mainstream boxing fans, or who we like to say guys on the street. And then I think the third camp that's emerging is the people who have Canelo at number one. And I think those people, they're the more people who are thinking about this cerebrally, with the logic of strength of schedule, with resume, with accomplishment over multiple weight classes, in that. So I mean, I think if you're thinking about it along those lines, those are the people who are going to have Canelo at number one. So I think it's really lining up into 3 camps or 3 trains of thoughts in assessing and pretty much assigning the number one pound for pound.
Great assessment, Courtney. That was very, very good. Jesus, Max Kellerman, can you jot down some notes, please? Moving on from the number one pound for pound spot, let's talk a little bit about maybe in the future potentially a Canelo versus Booby Andrade fight. There's been some talks. Booby was there at the fight, present. What are your thoughts on this, Aaron? Do you think that this fight materializes, and do you think that Andrade is a potential threat to Canelo? Because he's been avoided like the plague in the last couple of years.
I think it's just a matter of time. I think that fight will happen. Obviously on the zone. As far as the fight itself, I see Andrade. He's like his style is very like Lara Troutish, and meaning it won't be a style that Canelo will like. But given that he holds the other belt, Canelo would have to consider that and take him on. Having said that, I think Canelo, given his experience up to this date, I think he'll bring an exciting fight. I think Andrade will bring some challenges to Canelo, but Canelo being how he's grown and matured, he's going to bring his A game and get that last remaining middleweight belt.
D-Rock, how do you see that fight transpiring? What would be the result what would be the result that you wish for, and what would be the result that you think would come to fruition as far as reality?
I mean, it's very, very, very difficult for me to actually predict an outcome. Both fighters have their strengths. Canelo's obviously being able to take a punch, having the experience against these top guys. But on the other end, he's had major problems with southpaws. Andrade is a highly skilled, natural southpaw who can take a punch and can also dish out. I would love to see Andrade take another big fight in the interim, but both of these guys, and I will give Canelo credit, they don't run from any fights. Andrade has been asking for big matchups his whole career. We know that guys have not been wanting to meet him in the ring. I mean, he has the skill to technically outbox him. But we cannot, at this point, unless it's clear cut, Canelo will, in the meantime, will always be the beneficiary of close rounds because he's the unified champion. Andrade does possess the skill to win. It's just hard to leave it up to judges at this point. If they were to fight today, I do think Canelo would eke it out. But Andrade does possess the skill to pull out that victory. There's a lot of people who don't even know who Andrade is. They just have no idea who he is and would think that he's just another guy in the way. But he's a natural southpaw with great boxing ability and very good power that could pose many problems for Canelo. And does have the ability to switch styles. He can outbox, he can brawl, he can fight on the inside, he can fight on the outside. He's tall like Danny Jacobs. But that's all I can see. We can only go based on what Canelo has done and what we think Andrade will be able to do.
Tommy, what do you think would be the outcome of that fight? Who do you give the edge to? And this could be obviously a potential fight because both of them, as you know, both of them have contracts with the zone. So it's an easy fight to be made. What do you think of the outcome? Who do you
fight's getting made.
Push him
that
forward?
Fight's getting made, just so we know. That fight's getting made.
Of course.
Yeah, I feel it's getting made too, and I feel Canelo will win it. I do feel that Boo Boo will give him some issues. I think that he's smart enough. I think that he's crisp enough. I think that he is talented enough. And, just like everybody's already said, that southpaw stance is going to be somewhat of an issue for Canelo. I don't think it'll be a major issue. I think it will be a really, really good fight. It'll be entertaining. We know that Canelo's going to look to bring that sharp game to it, but Boo Boo will definitely be up for the challenge, and I think it'll be decently close. I think it'll be way more close than what this, closer than what the consensus is, I'll say, for this Jacobs Canelo fight. Not what you said, D-Rock, but I think it'll be closer than what we just saw over this past weekend. So excellent fight will be made, and I think Canelo will still pull it out. But I don't think that that's going to be a big knock or a knock at all, really, against Andrade.
Courtney, you've spoken very highly of Boo Boo in the past. We all know that, if you're a boxing enthusiast, you know that who this guy is. He did take a hiatus for about almost 2 years or no longer than that. But this is a guy who does possess a huge skill set, someone who you're a big fan of. How do you see that fight playing out? and you think it happens anytime soon?
I said this before Floyd retired. I said there were 3 people at 154 that Floyd wanted absolutely no parts of. The first one being Triple G, the second being Erislandy Lara, and the third being Boo Boo Andrade. And that's not really saying much because we all know that Floyd only really ventured up to 154 for risks that were highly lucrative. And with the exception of Triple G, none of those 3 would have been lucrative. So that's kind of null and void. But I think Boo Boo Andrade is a very capable and very dangerous fighter. Against Canelo, that is a fight that he will undoubtedly lose, but he will make Canelo look very horrible in getting that win. And I think that's going to be a fight where there's going to be a lot to talk about as far as the nuances of it and how it plays out, and possibly, Canelo benefiting on generous or the benefit of the doubt on scorecards, especially if it's held anywhere near Vegas after that potential fight. And with that being said, I think it's a fight. I don't see that as a fight that that Canelo is marching towards. I think the consensus on this panel or this board is that the fight is in the works right now. I don't think so. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened next, but I have a very sneaky suspicion of how things are going to align is that Canelo is either going to go back up to 168 and test the waters back up there. I would like to see him face Callum Smith. I think I would like to see him face Callum Smith at 168, but Callum Smith is possibly the top dog at 168 right now. I've always cast Callum Smith as the dark horse at super middleweight. I think David Lemieux is the most attractive opponent at 168 with him migrating up north on the scales, and also that guy Ryder who won an interim belt on the undercard and looked pretty impressive. But I think those are fights that are relevant. I think on the other end of it, where it's going to line up is I think they're going to press Andrade to fight Triple G because Canelo has already said that he's not really interested in fighting Triple G unless Triple G brings a belt back to the table. So I think I can see that's how it lines up, where they would push Triple G to fight Andrade and possibly collect that 4th strap, and then the rematch would possibly take place between Triple G and Canelo with all 4 belts on the line. I think that's the only way Canelo really wants that 3rd fight with Triple G is if there's 4 belts on the line. I think the only way he really fights Andrade is if there's really no other options left at 160 for him to face. That's just how I see it lining up.
That's interesting. Actually, you know what? Now that you brought that up, I think you're onto something. That might getting Andrade to sign to the zone could have already been the ploy, where they get Triple G to fight him, get a belt, and then they have a rematch between Triple G versus Canelo. We all know that Canelo is not rushing to fight Triple G. We know that, and now, there's so many options on the table for him. He could afford to do so, right? He's got a big contract. Triple G also does as well, so he's well taken care of there. But like you said, he could venture off onto another direction for the next 12 months, and then the Triple G rematch is there for him whenever he wants to.
Because with Canelo, it's lined up at a point where the unfortunate thing for us as purists and as legit boxing fans, to where we have certain matchups where we want to see people in, but to casuals, Canelo is now such a name and such a commodity is that basically mainstream fans and casuals will line up and watch him fight anybody. So that's going to suck as far as the matchups we want to see.
He's gotten to almost a Floyd Mayweather-esque level in terms of the popularity and the fan base at this point. Not quite there yet, but probably the closest boxer to I guess be in his shadow. Between him, maybe a toss-up between him and Anthony Joshua. But in the U.S., in the North America portion, I would say that Canelo edges Anthony Joshua for sure with no problem. Anthony Joshua is the Floyd Mayweather in Europe, but Canelo has done a great job at promoting himself, and Oscar's done a fantastic job of protecting his cash cow as much as he could. Digressing here for a second, we all heard the news that obviously boxing has changed a lot and has gone or transitioned from the pay-per-view landscape to the streaming device landscape now with the Zone and ESPN Plus, and I'm sure there's other ones that are going to follow soon. But I heard that there was 1.2 million viewers for the fight. Aaron, can you confirm that? Is that what it was?
It's as official as Dan Raphael reported it, so I'm taking his word for it.
Yeah, so it seems like the number that actually surprised me a little bit was that I think it was 600,000 streams in the U.S. and the rest were outside of the U.S. I would have thought that there would have been more streams, but that goes to tell you, boxing is big, not just in the U.S. Boxing is big everywhere. So those are interesting numbers. Do we have numbers as far as how many people were actual members versus people that were new members or people that just signed up? Anybody know that?
I don't know the exact numbers as to new members who signed up, but shout out to the Zone. And if you don't have the Zone, you're losing right now because you got a pay-per-view match if you're already a member for $10, or you could have essentially watched the fight for $20 if you just signed up the day of the fight. We've obviously all agreed that that's where the world is of boxing, that's where it's headed. But 1.2 million viewers doesn't surprise me. I honestly thought it would be a lot more just because of the accessibility of the Zone. Maybe all of the numbers haven't come in yet. But if you're a member and that fight costs you $10, what are you doing missing it?
I have to agree.
I agree.
I have to agree. Yeah, and the Zone, for those who have the Zone and have, like, I have ESPN Plus. I had to pay. No, not ESPN Plus. I have ESPN Plus as well, but I had to pay. What was the last fight? Was it Bud Crawford versus Khan? I had to pay the pay-per-view on that one. I think it was $80. Am I correct?
That was some bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah. So that was ESPN Plus then, right? What was the last fight that was pay-per-view?
Yeah,
it was
Garcia,
Khan.
Mikey. Yeah, well, I did have to pay for the Bud Crawford, yeah, and also Mikey Garcia versus for Spence. But you're right. So I'm a subscriber to ESPN Plus, but I still have to pay the pay-per-view to watch Khan versus Bud, which I don't know if that concept is going to work. I think that the Zone concept, I think they nailed it perfectly. You're a member, you get to watch this crazy fight for whatever the membership fee is going to be. $10 is what I pay. But I did see if you tune in on the night of the fight for $20, that's a fucking bargain. Bargain.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you let Aram get a hold of your money.
Sure. No, we're allowed to pay $10 for to get the pay-per-view on the Zone because they're paying these commentators peanuts because they fucking suck.
Yeah. They were pretty horrible. I didn't think Sergio Mora was that bad. I thought he was okay. I thought Brian and Kelly. I thought both of them were awful, and I think that the Zone really needs to reconsider having both of them. The one part I don't know how if you guys saw the post fight, but the one part that really got me laughing was I think it was Kelly or Brian, whoever it was, literally pulling Oscar De La Hoya for a quick 30-second interview. Anybody see that? Like, he was desperate. He's talking. He just pulled Oscar De La Hoya out of nowhere.
Yeah, I saw that was pretty embarrassing on their part.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, they're new. There's plenty of time. They're going to grow. They're going to make errors. But so far, I mean, the experience as far as the streaming, the quality, the experience, from my perspective, has been pretty good. But moving forward, we got a good fight coming up soon, in which I'm actually pretty excited to watch this fight. Errol Spence versus, or should I say Earl Spence versus Sean Porter, August 3rd, Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I'd be surprised if D-Rock is not present at that fight. But Tommy, tell me your thoughts of that fight. Are you as eager as I am to watch that fight? Because I kind of think that Sean Porter might give Spence a little bit of a hard time. He isn't going to win, but a little bit of a hard time.
Hell yeah, I'm excited to see that. This is the type of shit that we've been waiting for and talking about over about the last year and a half or so. All of this stuff is lining up. All of the big name fighters are being pushed together. This is a great fight. We know that Earl is a very physical, fighter, and we all know that Sean Porter is like the linebacker of the division. I do think that he may present some pretty good issues for Spence, and I think that this fight is really going to show what Spence has as far as in his arsenal to deal with what Porter will bring. We all know that Porter's probably one of the most difficult fighters in that division to take on at that level, and I think that he's gonna win. Spence is gonna win. I mean, even in the promo picture, it just looks like Porter already thinks he's gonna lose. But I think it'll be a great fight. I'm excited to see it. I hope that a number of you guys may make it to it and be in there in attendance. But great fight. Spence is going to win it.
Courtney, you think that there's anything Sean Porter could do to be able to put himself in a position where he can win that fight?
Absolutely not. There's no conceivable scenario where I could see Sean Porter making it out of there with Spence's IBF strap, other than a miracle lucky punch, or basically some Buster Douglas versus Tyson in Tokyo type scenario. But I mean, other than that, the fight, it really doesn't line up to where it would favor Sean Porter in any way. Do I think it's going to be an entertaining fight that's going to give value for money? Absolutely. Well, I mean, especially that it's going to be on national television on Fox in prime time. I think this is as far as since PBC has basically gone back to free TV or network television, I think this is one of the best fights they can put on for a wider audience. So I think this was the intention, to where this is going to be the fight that's going to be put on a network that's going to pack it in as far as the free TV crowd. And I hope we get a good undercard to go with it. And I think this is a fight that can really draw mainstream attention into some of the other guys who are fighting, not necessarily on pay-per-view or who aren't ascendant as pay-per-view stars per se. But I you got to give to Sean Porter. He's a very durable fighter, and I think that he's going to be in there to withstand it for 12. But I think it could be a situation where we see Errol Spence be the first person to stop him, and I don't think it would be on a straight knockout. I would think it would be either Sean Porter's dad throwing in the towel to save his son, or the referee stepping in because they've seen enough. But either way, there's going to be damage done to Sean Porter.
Damn, you got to do Sean Porter like that? Oh man, God.
Absolutely.
It's in your neck of the woods. It's in Brooklyn.
You know I'll be there.
And I know you love Brooklyn.
No, you know I'll be there. I think that fight is long overdue. It's very simple to me. If Sean Porter fights Errol Spence any way, any type of style that he fought in his last fight, he's going to lose. He's going to lose every single round. We need old Sean Porter, old ugly, head first, follow through with the elbow on the hooks type of fight. Half braid with the bad suit. We need that Sean Porter to show up that night to make it ugly and make it questionable for the judges to give Errol Spence every single round.
No offense, but Sean Porter's always going to show up with an ugly suit every fight.
I want ugly suit, half braid.
Yep.
I want them to cut every braid he has off just to make weight. That fight, I need every braid off. I don't care. Sean Porter, he's a heck of a challenger. A lot of us, not just here, but in the boxing world, have gone from hating Sean Porter or his style to respecting Sean Porter and knowing what he's going to bring and respecting what he brings to the table. I do not see Errol Spence stopping Sean Porter. Yeah, they have a common opponent in Kell Brook, but Kell Brook was damaged goods when he fought Errol Spence. Kell Brook was able to take the strap away from Sean Porter, but that was years ago.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, Spence could have knocked out Mikey Garcia this last fight, and it's not like he wasn't trying to. Go ahead.
Mikey has a chin. Mikey has a chin. I'll give him that. They should have stopped that fight. Mikey has to go on. I do not think Kenny Porter will be able to to be able to swallow his pride to do something of that caliber. He would rather just, let his fighter or let his son go out swinging. That's the type of fighter Sean Porter is. I do think that Errol Spence wins that fight relatively easily. I don't see a stoppage or a one-punch knockout at all.
I mean, let's keep in mind that Mikey was able to survive that because he was still able to give things to think about to Errol Spence down that stretch. And if Mikey was able to hit Errol that hard to make him think about going all in, Sean Porter will definitely be able to hit him that hard. So I mean, I think if anything, that's going to be his saving grace.
Yeah, I think that you guys are counting Sean Porter out. I think that if Sean Porter comes in his usual self, which is literally being a bully, and he can make that fight very interesting. If he doesn't allow Spence to get into range, because that's what Spence does very well. He puts himself in good range all the time, and you notice that all the time. His positioning. The way he jabs and the way he puts himself in range is just beautiful to watch. As far as skill set, he's not the most skillful fighter in the welterweight division.
If the Sean Porter that fought Danny Garcia, and even though he lost, the Sean Porter that showed up to fight Keith Thurman shows up to fight Errol Spence, it's going to be a very, very, very interesting fight.
Yeah.
Because both of those guys have legitimate grown man power in that division, and against Danny Garcia, he wasn't routed at all. Keith Thurman did give him a lot of problems throughout the fight, but Keith Thurman's a better fighter than Danny Garcia. So, one time
for sure. I wonder when he's is that fight, by the way, is that official, Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman? Because I'm hearing now conflicting stories.
Not official.
I'm hearing it's official, but then I'm hearing also that Manny Pacquiao has declined to state who he's going to fight this summer. So I think there's a lot up in the air with that.
Speaking of things up in the air, say that again, Aaron.
Because of Pacquiao's senatorial obligations, so he's not ready to commit to any particular name.
But I think we're all in the consensus that it's definitely going to be Keith Thurman.
I don't know. I think Danny Garcia boxed his way into consideration with that win over Adrian Granados.
Sorry, Keith. You might lose out on a big payday. Moving forward, and speaking of attention.
Wait, hold on.
And
I think Manny doesn't want to fight with Keith Thurman more than Thurman doesn't want to fight with Manny Pacquiao.
I think Keith Thurman wants another. I think he wants another tune-up fight. I think under the circumstances, I think Keith Thurman doesn't want to come back this soon against the Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, because Manny looked pretty good the last couple of fights, especially the last fight.
Namaste.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, if I am Keith, I would like to have another tune-up because clearly there's ring rust in his last fight, and you are fighting Manny Pacquiao. And I'll tell you right now, I am a huge Keith Thurman fan as well as a Manny Pacquiao fan. But if they fight right now in June, I have to say that Manny definitely has the edge in that fight. Yeah, I could see Manny winning.
Co-signing.
Yeah, I could see Manny winning, and I could see Manny winning, and I could see it being an 8-4, 9-3 fight. I really do. So Manny's not the same Manny as before, but he still has a good amount of speed. He's still, in my opinion, he's number 2 in the welterweight division. In my opinion, he's number 2 in the welterweight division. I do put Spence above him, but I do put Manny over Keith Thurman. I think that the long layoff, the hiatus that Keith took, plus the new person that he is today, I don't think he's as hungry as he used to be. I think that puts him at a disadvantage, and Manny's got too much experience in the ring.
Jesus, my heart hurt when you just said that.
It's true. It's true. I don't know. Anybody else think different? Speak or forever hold your peace.
No, I'm with you right now.
I was just looking at this guy. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, Terrence Crawford. You guys heard of him?
I'm sorry.
No, he's pretty good. This is pretty good guy. He's this pretty good boxer from Omaha. I don't know if you guys heard of him.
Yeah. No. I misspoke. That was clearly I misspoke. I meant to say, man, he's the third best welterweight in division. You have Bud, which I think you meant.
I think you meant he's the number 2 best. I think you meant he's the number 2 best PBC welterweight, Manny Pacquiao, right?
All right, yeah.
Listen, hold on. The welterweight division goes Bud Crawford, Keith Thurman, Clarissa Shields, all right?
Boom!
Yo, chill.
All right, that's my girl, the GWOAT, all right?
Moving along. Seems like there's a lot of tension between Vasily Lomachenko and also his top-rank affiliate, Teofimo Lopez. Courtney, what do you think of that? Anything? Do you think that's going to come into fruition? Do you think that Bob Arum is actually going to allow Lopez to jump in the ring, a bright future that he has, and face somebody like Lomachenko? Do you think he's ready for a guy like Lomachenko right now at this moment, if anybody is?
Okay, first off, I want to thank you so much for dialing me up first on this one because, I got shit to say. I got shit to say. First off, I want to speak to Lomachenko and High Tech Nation out there. Lomachenko is hardcore fanboys. I'm talking about the Howard Beach Cats. I'm talking about the people who would vote for Putin if he could stand for American election. I'm talking about the people who want to pull Roy Jones and get him a Russian passport. I'm talking about those Lomachenko fanboys. I've been going through it. I've been going through it these past few weeks with these dudes who are saying that basically, how dare Teofimo Lopez be mentioning Lomachenko's name on air and on social media? How dare Teofimo Lopez, with his limited experience, with his limited amateur pedigree, could come through and just have so many fans and so many people musing on this fight just on potential. That's the most hypocritical thing ever, because these are the same people who were reserving a spot in their top 10 after Lomachenko had fought one professional fight. So the hype that was associated with Lomachenko out the gate, besides being generated from Top Rank's public relations machine, was all based on potential. And it's the same, and it's the same potential that the dudes like Teofimo are showing right now. And with Lomachenko, it was it was potential that was manifested by the intense amateur pedigree, and it was warranted. But look what Teofimo is doing right now in 13 or 14 professional fights, where he is ending these cats who are not supposed to be ended. Like they are struggling right now to find guys who are going to be able to give it. Teofimo is basically having to contend for a championship right now, for a strap, because those are the only people he can get rounds against potentially. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're at a level where he is, where he's not even old enough to drink, but the dudes that are going to be able to give him rounds are Ray Beltran and Richard Comey. Come on now, like I want to hear the hypocrisy from Lomachenko Nation and High Tech fanboys. It needs to stop. The hypocrisy needs to stop. You're assigning Lomachenko too much credit for as great as he is. You're assigning him too much credit, and you're assigning too little to a guy who is extremely talented and extremely God-gifted as Teofimo Lopez. If the fight happens tonight, I'm picking Lomachenko. I'm putting money on Lomachenko. But the notion that Lomachenko is going to go in there and do what he wants against a massive lightweight like Teofimo Lopez is just utterly absurd.
Yeah, Teofimo's been very impressive. For those who don't know, 13-0. I think 11 or 12 knockouts. I think I might be wrong with 12. It should be 11. He's been ending people. I mean, a couple of fights ago, not his last one. I think his last one he ended a fight in the 5th or 6th round. But a couple of fights ago, I think against Maynard, he knocked him out in the first round or something like that. He is the best, youngest prospect right now, and he's definitely making a buzz. And a lot of people are jumping on the train, and it's not a hype train. This is real. This kid's a star. He's going to be a star. You know, he's got everything in the, you know, he's got the skill set. He's got everything in the tank to gain the same type of popularity that Lomachenko gained 2 years ago. And he's already there. He's, a lot of people are knowing who he is. He's gaining a lot of popularity. Top Rank is putting a lot in his stock, as they should. But I don't think that, again, I agree with Courtney. If they fought today, I would have to bet on Lomachenko's side. But a couple more years from now, this kid is a problem. He's a problem for a lot of people, and he's going to be a problem for a lot of people for the next 10, 15 plus years. So, Aaron, what are your thoughts? I know you've been following this closely. It's getting heated between the two of them, which I'm surprised because they are both signed to Top Rank. It's not really normal to see two fighters from the same stable to be at each other's throat on Twitter and on interviews as they have been. And Lomachenko's been very vocal lately. What do you think? What do you make of this?
As far as the outside of the ring so-called beef, I have to agree with Courtney. I think it is hypocritical for the Lomachenko camp to impose such stipulation against Teofimo, especially given the fact that Lomachenko he's been given the benefit of the fact of all this hype in way less amount of fights, and Teofimo he's been working his butt off, knocking people out, and he has a right to call out Lomachenko, and even though he already has a pathway to become a champion without Lomachenko, besides that fact, I think he's already deserving of a Lomachenko fight. But as far as the fight itself, if it happens now or within the next 2 years, I still have Lomachenko winning. I think, in speaking in boxing terms, I think I kind of compare this to Lubin's situation where he's risen so fast, but he got derailed by Charlo, and I think this could be the same situation for Teofimo if he fights Lomachenko right now. I think Lomachenko is still at his peak. I think his style will give Teofimo problems. I think he'll offset any opportunity for Teofimo to land 80 knockout against Lomachenko. So I think at this point in time, I think Lomachenko routes decisions Teofimo Lopez. That's how I see it.
D-Rock, I know you've been very vocal of Teofimo.
No. I mean, the allure of the fight is the potential superstar abilities of Teofimo Lopez and what we already know of Vasily Lomachenko. What we all have to, not just us, but in the boxing world, we need to slow down a little bit. That fight's not going to happen anytime soon, regardless. Aram's on record saying that you'll probably see Lopez face Comey before Lomachenko does, probably sometime later this year. I think he's in line to be in fight an IBF eliminator as his next fight, and then fighting Comey at the end of the year once Comey returns from his injury. And we already know that Lomachenko is going to fight Luke Campbell. Big takeaway for me from all of this fight is that you can probably say that Lopez and Lopez's camp, more his father than Teofimo, have gotten into Lomachenko's head. Lomachenko's very reserved most of the time when it comes to beefing with other fighters, which you've never really seen that. But for him to come out and say, you know, he'd fight him for free or that he's going to punish him, that really says a lot to, you know, what he thinks of Teofimo Lopez's skill. And I got to say, he does fear the challenge a little bit itself for him to come out and try to defend the status as much as he's done. I agree with everyone. If that fight happens right now, Lomachenko does decision him. He absolutely decisions him. And Lomachenko is going to be the favorite in any fight that he goes into. But the hypocrisy, we all agree on the hypocrisy. If Lomachenko had the same fanfare, granted that comes off of 2 Olympic gold medal performances, you got that young, hungry lion, word to TBE, that's going to go in there and is not afraid and can hit and can bang and has size and is fast. Lomachenko's advantage also is that he doesn't have to take that fight right now either. Lomachenko can still navigate freely between 135 and 130. So he has a lot more options than Teofimo Lopez does. Yeah, you know what, Teo? Go get that IBF strap and then see Lomachenko in the ring.
I mean, last time we had Joseph Correa on, I think he promised us we were going to get Teo on. Let's try to make that happen in the next episode.
Where he at, though?
That should be. Say that again?
I said, where he at, though?
Oh, no, we'll get him. We'll definitely get him. That'd be interesting to have him on, and then, you know, maybe he can shed some light on the subject at hand. Who knows? Tommy, I see you dropped out, dropped back in. What's going on? What do you think about this fight? Do you think this would have happened? And if it did, who are you picking? You picking Loma or are you picking Teofimo? The young, hungry Honduran.
The lion. I'm picking Lomachenko, man. I mean, you know, everybody already said what needed to be said on this one. I mean, you know, I think that Lomachenko would definitely not be in the same position as he's been in a lot of his most recent fights. He would not stop Teofimo. Dude is a fucking monster. Like, and the fact that, you know, just like D-Rock just said, the fact that Loma is actually speaking out and trying to answer back, you know, puff up at him, like, that just shows that he already sees what this dude is about, and he's pulling his rank right now. You know, he's pulling his rank, but as you guys already stated, it's very, very hypocritical. It's almost kind of like how, you know, One Time was doing, where he was promoting his O that had to go, and then as soon as he got his big dog status, it was like, oh, all of y'all got to wait your turn. Come on, man. Like, this dude, he's very, very game for Lomachenko, but I got Lomachenko winning still. I mean, at this point right now. Now give Teofimo a few more fights. We might be talking about a little bit something more, depending on how he looks, what he learns in those bouts, and how he progresses. But it will still be an excellent fight. I'm loving the fact that they're talking shit back and forth. You know, this is the good shit that we actually need to see and hear out of boxing and out of the boxers themselves. So yeah, Loma will win that right now. I mean, I don't think that there's too much question in that, but I love it, and Loma needs to sit down with that hypocrisy bullshit.
Courtney, I'm passing on the mic to you.
I just want to say one more thing to redirect when we're on the topic of Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko. Y'all know I be at the fights, and I've been in attendance.
Yeah, your ass gets there at 1 p.m.
Hell yeah.
That type of thing.
But I've been in attendance when both of these guys have fought, and I'll say this about Lomachenko. That's one of the greatest senses, being ringside and seeing somebody fight, that I'm witnessing an actual art form, of what somebody is doing in there. Like, basically, I'm saying, like watching somebody put a brush to, and paint to a canvas and really create something beautiful. That's with Lomachenko. I've seen this kid Teofimo Lopez ringside, was about 5 rows back when he was fighting in New Orleans, and this is the only fight where I really was concerned for somebody's safety, because he was just rocking this guy, and it was like he was making the people ringside and in that audience feel the pain he was inflicting on that other guy. So I mean, as far as matchups, it's a matchup that it isn't inconceivable. It's a matchup that should happen sooner rather than later, because Teofimo is a huge lightweight too. The kid is a huge lightweight. He's only 20 years old, and he's eating his mom and dad. He still lives at home. He's eating his mom and dad at a house and home, and he's gonna be. We're gonna be discussing him in terms of how he matches up with Jose Ramirez at 140. Before long. Teofimo Lopez has only got about 3 fights left at 135 max. At this point, if you don't want to see it, I would have to ask, what are you scared of, and and what are you scared of? For in terms of who you're scared for, because it's a fight that definitely we as fans deserve to see.
What do you think Bob Arum's thinking? Do you think Bob Arum's thinking about the money that this fight can potentially generate?
I think Bob Arum has the same thing he has on his mind consistently: good weed and a lot of money.
No. I mean, no. That's what I mentioned earlier. Arum is on record saying that Lopez, he's going to face the Japanese guy.
He's got a title eliminator again. He's got a title eliminator to qualify for the IBF. Comey and Beltran just got ordered to fight for the belt that Comey holds. Teofimo Lopez is going to get next. So he's going to fight this title eliminator. He comes out of it, he's going to fight either Ray Beltran or Richard Comey.
No, he'll fight.
And then
he'll fight
there,
Comey.
He's That's a good fight. That's a good fight, because Comey and Beltran are hungry. They're both hungry. They're both hungry dudes. And the thing about Comey is, whenever it gets into a whenever he gets into a slugfest, Comey wilts down the stretch. And and Beltran, being as hungry as he is, in a slugfest, if you're lacking resolve against a guy like him, I have to put it in doubt what your prospects are.
And listen, Courtney, I'm actually glad you brought up Jose Ramirez in that 140-pound division, because shout out to my man Regis Prograis. All right, shout out to Regis Prograis. Word.
Rugo.
Who Jose Ramirez himself doesn't want any part of.
Nada.
Nobody wants any part of him right now at 140.
Nada. The kid's a problem.
Do you think Mikey Garcia? I mean, we're changing subjects really quick. Do you think Mikey Garcia has any intentions of going back going down to 140? He's not there. There's no way Mikey stays at 147 and fighting a guy.
I don't think there's much business for him to do at 140. Yeah,
but I mean, a fight against Regis. I mean, I don't know if there's money there.
He's on his own.
Fight.
A network, basically, as far as where the lines from network wise, you got Jose Ramirez, who's top ranked ESPN, and then everybody else is on DAZN. I think I think Mikey Garcia is in a conundrum where physically he cannot go back to 135 and be effective, and promotionally there's nobody really he can do business with at 140. So he's stuck at 147.
Which explains why he took the fight against Spence, because there's not going to be a lot of money. To really think about it, right? He's not going to go to 135. At 130, he goes to 135. He's got no choice, but he has to fight Lomachenko at 135. You know, at 140, there's network problems, right? So at 147, think about it. He took a fight against Errol Spence, right? We know he was going to lose that fight. He got paid. What did he get? $8 million for that fight? Anybody know? What was the purse for him?
No, not off the top of my head.
I think he made north of $8 million, which is the biggest payday he's had thus far. You know, not that long ago, Mikey was making $500,000 on a boxing match. So I mean that could explain the decision why. I mean, in addition to the money, you know, the decision to face Spence. You know, but I want to
looks like the reports say he made about $3 million on the purse.
The pay-per-view and all that. Yeah, pay-per-view and all that. I think altogether with his sponsorship, I think he ended up making a total of $8 million.
Yep, somewhere around there.
Yeah, which is not for a guy who's used to making $500,000 to $1 million. I mean, you're not going to say no to an $8 million fight. You know,
and that's what he was looking for the whole time, for like the whole last year and a half. He was promoting himself for that big money, and he got it.
Just like you know, there's been rumors the last couple of days where Spence could have an opportunity to face Canelo for $20 million. I don't care if he's going to lose that fight, or he thinks he might lose that fight, or if his camp thinks he might lose that fight. The fact of the matter is that $20 million, he's going to go up and take that L every day, all day long. You know, so I mean, at the end, some of these boxers do make a decision based, you know, financially, you know, based on an incentive. Clearly, the money. That's just my take. But going back to Lomachenko, he's obviously going to be fighting no slouch, which is Luke Campbell. He's getting a lot of heat on Instagram, on a lot of social media sites. People are really going in on him. Has anybody seen that? I mean, lately, like, they're really talking crap. They're calling Luke Campbell a bum, and that Lomachenko is scared, and he should be fighting somebody else. You know, has anybody seen that?
I mean, I've heard the smack talk from a few different angles. I mean, I'm hearing criticism of basically Lomachenko as far as petitioning the WBC to give him a shot at the vacant title, because basically because he's already a champion in two other organizations. So there's a lot of people who are hating on him for, it's like, all right, you're already a unified champion. Why are you getting to go to the front of the line? Which I really don't contend with, because I mean, people are they're basically saying we want to see the best fight the best. Well, I think the WBC made a decision where it's going to pit a unified champion against their the guy who they see as being most worthy to fight for the belt. As far as, I mean, for Luke Campbell, I think that's unfortunate in that he's a guy who is he's green. He's just getting to this championship level. He's dropped a couple fights that were close on the cards, but now he basically goes from one aspect of fighting possibly a Devin Haney, who is more closely matched with him skill-wise and experience-wise, to having to go against a two-division champ, out the gate for this title shot. But I mean, it's just one of those things. It's subjective. I think Luke Campbell is a guy who is he's very capable. He's obviously not scared. He's relishing this opportunity to challenge himself against the best fighter in the world by basically the consensus as far as the boxing writers and whatnot. But it's as far as Lomachenko and how he matches up against Luke Campbell, it's pretty much we're pretty much gonna see Lomachenko in with Anthony Crolla, the equivalent. Again, I think as just as far as where Luke Campbell is experience wise, and as far as durability in there.
Yeah, Luke Campbell's fight against Linares was actually an interesting fight because at the very tail end of that fight, he was really pressing on Linares, and he was giving Linares a lot of problems. And he showed a lot of grit and a lot of toughness in that fight. I was watching. I was actually very impressed and very shocked that he was giving it to Linares. It should be a good fight. I mean, this guy, he's tough. He's as tough as they come. He's really tough as nails. I've seen him get hurt and really just stick into the fight. So this is not like, for people that are not giving this guy a chance. I mean, obviously we're all picking, Lomachenko to win, but he's not fighting a guy that's just going to easily give up. Very much like Linares. When Linares fought Lomachenko, we knew that this was not going to be an easy fight. And I think, Courtney, you know how I feel about Linares. He's one of my favorite fighters, whether people believe it or not. He's one of my favorite fighters. He's been one of my favorite fighters for 7+ years, and I still think that despite the fact that Linares lost his last fight, I still think that, Mikey Garcia did avoid Linares and did not fight him for a specific reason.
And Bronner wanted no parts of him either.
Nope. No. He's one of the most underrated fighters that I've watched. He's had issues with the scar tissue in his eye, which has caused, some problems, even led to about 2 losses due to that eye. But as far as skill set, I mean, we saw him in there with Lomachenko. It wasn't an easy fight with Lomachenko. He dropped Lomachenko. Obviously, Lomachenko ended up dropping him, but he was really, really impressing a lot of people in that fight, even though I thought Lomachenko was winning towards the end, pretty easily. But it was an intriguing fight, to say the least. D-Rock, I think you wanted to talk about some upcoming fights.
Absolutely. Michael, Tommy, Aaron, CT, check this out, right? This weekend alone, you got a rematch between Burchell and Francisco Vargas. You got the rematch between Navarrete and Isaac Dogboe. Jarrett Hurts fighting Julian Williams. The week after that, we got the heavyweights. We got Wilder versus Brazil. We have Billy Joe Saunders coming back May 18th also. Pick a fight. Talk on it. Let's do this. Gary Russell Jr. is coming back that next weekend also. These are the next 2 weeks to talk about, fellas. June 1st.
Finally.
Anthony Joshua got his replacement. Big Baby Miller. Stop injecting yourself. Get on this podcast. Defend yourself. Let's do it. Big Baby's injecting and Andy's eating Snickers. Let's do it. What fight interests you? What fight interests you the most, Courtney? Do any of those fights stand out to you?
You know what? I want to give a shout out to my man Chris Ramos out there. And particularly, I want to shout him out and reference him as it concerns Dogboe and Navarrete. I post, when the post for the first fight, I couldn't see it through my anger and disappointment that my man Dogboe had basically run into a wall that he did. But my man Chris Ramos, he said basically he was like, Dogboe does not need to come back against Navarrete in the rematch. He needs to give it some rest, and he needs to give it some time, and doesn't need to jump back into it because the rematch, it could be a lot worse for him. I've taken enough time from that emotion and that disappointment to really digest and meditate on my man Chris Ramos's words. And I gotta completely agree with him on this. I think, as much as I hate to say it, I think Dogboe running back into that wall with minimal rest and just coming fresh off a loss like he took it. I think it's gonna be real bad for him. I don't like it. I think everything is lining up against him in this fight, as far as in terms of style and in terms of style and size, just sheer size and style in there. I think Dogboe is going to go in there and try to fight a dog fight against a very long, lean, wiry, tough, and durable Mexican fighter, and I think that's just going to result all wrong for him, and I hate to see it, man. But I'm very excited for the rest of the rematches that are going down. I'm gonna spread love on the mic and let everybody else jump in. But yeah, that's the one I wanted to speak on in particular right there.
Tommy. Which one? Which one? Which one interests you? Which one are you looking most for? The one looking forward to the most? Excuse me.
Man, y'all know how I am. I'm just a major fan of the sport. Period. Kind of like my man Courtney. I'm excited. I'm purely excited because we have a ton of fucking boxing that is still rocking. A lot of people have been talking shit about boxing for a long time, and it's still going strong. It's going strong as ever. So, I mean, I'm just excited that it's going to keep rocking the way it is. Like, the whole year, the flames when it comes to the bouts that we've seen, the matchups that we've seen, some of the controversy, the shit talking behind the scenes. This shit is going, man. This shit is where it's at. And anybody that's casual, enjoy it. Anybody that's a boxing pundit, as Gomes would say, enjoy it. And let's just take all of this shit in. Let's take it in. And let's see some great fucking boxing.
Well, Michael, I know that you don't want to see Bomb Squad sign next week, so you're going last. Aaron.
Wilder.
Aaron, which one of these fights intrigues you?
I'm very excited about the rematch between Jermell Charlo and Tony Harrison. I think because it's more of a mental affair more so than a physical. I think Tony Harrison, as you guys said, he's 2-0 with the second win at the presser. So it's going to be really interesting how Jermell kind of has to deal with that come fight night. But yeah, that's in terms of rematches, that's the rematch I really want to see.
Mike, Bomb Squad. Can you say it for me, please? Can you say it?
Bomb Squad.
Thank you.
Bomb Squad.
What's on your mind? Who do you like? What do you like?
I'm gonna agree with my counterpart there, Aaron. The Tony fight versus Charlo. I think that's probably the most intriguing fight right now on paper. I also am looking forward to seeing J-Rock versus Jared Hurd, although I think that Hurd is going to hurt him, and I think that I think that it's time for Hurd to start going up in weight. He's just a big guy, but I'm intrigued to see not so much what Hurd is going to do in that fight because I know what he's going to do, but just to see how J-Rock comes back, especially after that devastating loss against Charlo. But yeah, I think the fight to watch is definitely going to be the rematch between Tony and Charlo. I have Tony winning that fight again. I think he's a slick boxer. I think he boxed very well in the last fight, and I think in the rematch, I think he's going to do a better job. I think he's going to be much better prepared for the fight. And a lot of people are sleeping on him. I think a lot of people thought that Charlo won the fight. And I can see maybe a case for a draw, although I thought that Tony was the better boxer through and through. But I think this time around, I think that Tony's really going to showcase his skill set better because he's just better prepared for that fight. And it should be interesting because he's a good fighter. He's a good boxer. And I'd like to see him, succeed. So, it's interesting times. There's a lot of boxing fights that are out there that are good. But that's the one that I think that if you're a boxing fan, hardcore fan, I think that's the one that you're looking forward to because it's a 50-50, 55-45 fight.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I want to agree a little bit with what Courtney said on the Dogbe and Navarrete rematch. Not the best fight for Dogbe to come into. At least he needs to fight a completely different style than he did. I am as equally interested in Wilder Brazil as I am in Joshua Reeves for obvious reasons because of the implications further down the line of both of those matchups. I do believe that Ruiz is a way better opponent for Joshua at this point in time than Big Baby Miller was going into the fight. Another fight that a lot of people aren't talking about, also that same weekend, is Inoue is fighting for an IBF bantamweight title as well.
Against Emmanuel Rodriguez.
Against Emmanuel Rodriguez, which a lot of guys, are overlooking. But he's another guy that's absolutely ranked in my top 10, probably 7 or even higher with the skill set that he possesses.
You can argue top 5.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely argue that. So for these guys, all these guys to be fighting within the next 3 weeks to a month, we have a lot to look forward to. We're blessed. We're blessed, and Callum Smith. I'm sorry, these fights are also coming back to me little by little. Callum Smith, as Courtney mentioned earlier in the podcast, is also fighting. I don't even know where to start. Oscar Valdez is coming. Triple G is coming back. Like we're talking within the next month, all of these fights are coming. There's absolutely no reason for us to skip any of these or to not be entertained. I can't wait for anything. I'll definitely be there August 3rd for Spence and Sean Porter. Do not forget your pound-for-pound submissions. Aaron, I'm going to let you speak on the deadline for that.
Yes, the deadline, May 11th, is the last day we'll be accepting pound-for-pound lists. You could go to our website, www.thestandingaidpodcast.com. When you go to our site, go to the pound-for-pound page. There's a web form. Just submit your top 10s over there. And after May 11th, we'll calculate all the lists on a point system, and we'll determine the community-voted pound-for-pound rankings for May 2019. So, yeah, May 11th, last day to submit your top 10s. So get to it.
And as always, hey, like my man Daniel Pena says, if you do not submit, do not talk shit.
Word. Yup.
We don't want to hear
gentlemen.
shit if you do not submit.
It was an awesome show.
Michael.
We had a lot of interesting topics.
Mike.
I'm here. I'm here.
I don't even play video games because I don't like losing.
Last announcement. Be sure to catch.
Yup.
Last announcement. Be sure to catch Courtney, Michael,
can I get some shout-outs,
and Daniel at the Triple G fight.
Say that again, Aaron.
Oh, just a last announcement. Make sure to catch Courtney, D-Rock, and Gomes. They'll be at the Triple G fight. If I'm not
That's right. Yep. Gonna watch Triple G probably knock Steve Rolls by the 3rd round if he makes it past that. But anyway, it was a great show. We're just concluding episode 33. This is season 2. To all the fans out there that have been listening, we appreciate your love and support. We'll be back on soon. Hopefully, we'll have Teofimo Lopez on our next pod. We're going to try to make that happen for everybody. That's right. Shout out to Joseph Correa from Front Proof Media. A wonderful individual, great person. Hector Franco, absolutely. Check them out, Front Proof Media.
Shout out to Anthony Stacks, Saldana.
Ooh, Anthony's my man. Absolutely. Supreme Boxing. Love his stuff. Love reading his stuff. Awesome guy.
He ain't come see me about that tri-steak he challenged me on, though. I'll tell him that.
We'll make that happen.
Shout out to
everybody
Roy
out
Bennett.
there. You have yourselves a great night. We could be shouting out everybody for the next hour, but I'm going to go to sleep with my baby daughter. So you guys, enjoy your night.
Congratulations to Michael Gomes on
Shout out to Mike Gomes.
Beautiful
Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations. I appreciate you guys. I just told my wife.
Shout out to everybody who bought a house from Gomes.
Yeah, it's a lot of people the last couple of months.
Shout out to myself.
Life is good. Life is good. But everybody out there, peace, love, and boxing. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure.
I just have a desire to be great. You know, that's one of the main things, the fact that it's another man on the other side of the ring that wants to hurt me.
I told you, all of my critics, I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
He can bring the pressure. He can box. I'm a true champion. I'm willing to go to his turf. I'm a step with him. I'm a crush him. Y'all can mark my word to this. I'm a crush him. He's a C-plus fighter. I'm an A-plus fighter because I'm a dominate. This guy is flat-footed, swing wild. I'm not worried about who his trainer is because the trainer can't get in there and fight for him. I'm ready mentally, physically, because I'm a team like he's a C-plus fighter. I'm a dominate. I'm a dog-ish fighter.
I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynch the conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairport. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat your children.
Can you? Listen, your concentration is leaving a little bit. Pick it up. Pick it up! Fire's up. Are you ready for the fire? No, we're firemen. We are firemen! The heat doesn't bother us. We live in the heat. We train in the heat. It tells us that we're ready. We're at home. We're where we're supposed to be. Flames don't intimidate us. What do? We control the flames. We control them. We move the flames where we want to.